can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Hello everyone, welcome back to The Slime. This week we're going to be talking about the Mandalorian Season 3 premiere. I know we had a little break last week. We didn't have a new episode out because Diego was on vacation in Cuba, and he is now back.
Yeah, I'm back to the horrible cold weather.
Oh yeah, man, you missed a pretty bad snowstorm while you were gone. So,
but I picked a good week. I did pick a very good week.
Yeah, exactly.
Second time in Cuba.
Yeah, how was it?
It was good with my girlfriend Deanna. You know, nice trip, getaway. The only other people you know there, so that's really great. I mean, and usually I'm not a big staying on the resort guy, but I don't know. I kind of just enjoyed relaxing and being on the beach every day. I did get out to Havana though, and took it like a boat trip one day. So
it's nice to appreciate just doing nothing on the resort, just hanging out, eating and drinking, sitting on the beach. That's a nice experience, but like, it's a great part of a trip to go out and experience the world around the resort, because it can really make a trip much more special.
Well, and you should do your due diligence, right? Because reality is people don't have it very good in that country, or most countries people go on vacation if it's for a beach vacation. So if you're going to go, it's probably right that you see some of the culture and see a bit of how people are living. And even that, you're only scratching the surface. That being said, here's my thing. I really enjoyed Cuba, no problems.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would go back again, because
Really?
there's this overwhelming guilt of being there, because it's very like, it's a cheap, nice holiday for you. And all part of the reason it's cheap is because these people have it so bad. You go to Europe, it's expensive because there's, because, you know, the people are more well off there. And I don't want to get too serious for a minute, but if you do go to Cuba, bring stuff with you to give them. You know, don't just go there.
Yeah, it's important to not just hide on the resort and to actually go out and educate yourself on how these people are living, you know, and thank them for staying on their beautiful country, you know.
Yeah, and like my girlfriend brought like bags with stuff to give some people.
That's really great.
Like medicine stuff like that is really good. And I gave away a pair of shorts and stuff. Like, and I'm not patting myself on the back. Tons of people do this when they go to Cuba. I'm just saying, like, it's good to do when you go, especially there, because stuff's just really hard to get. Not to get too serious for a minute. But yeah, so I kind of felt conflicted about going. And also, I just feel like such a... Okay, some context. I'm half Bolivian, and I go to Bolivia. Been going to Bolivia my like entire life. Bedno's like must feel like every like year.
You go every couple of years to Bolivia, right, to see your family.
Exactly. And there,
Christmases.
It's not the same as Cuba, but it's a Latin country, Spanish speaking, so there's a lot of similarities in the culture. And in Bolivia, like, I live it. I'm right in there. I'm with the people. I see how the life is, like, to the full extent. And in Cuba, I just feel like such a tourist, and I'm not used to that. In like the
alienated.
In the Latin world, I don't like feeling that like that necessarily, because I feel more connected to it. Not that I know Cuba, but just more to like the Latin world and the lifestyle and like the culture and stuff like that. But
well, how was it compared to when you went? When we went together in grade 10, I don't know how many years ago that was.
I think 7.
Yeah, so we both went about 7 years ago. What was it like then compared to now?
This time, the Havana tour was actually different when we first went. When we went to Havana, they kind of just showed us the old part. Mm-hmm. We went more into the new part, but we did go to like the same cigar
areas,
shop, Revolution Square. I don't know if you remember that. It was like those buildings with the big faces on them.
Yeah.
Che Guevara.
I remember just standing in front of it.
Yeah.
And how hot it was outside, just standing there in front of it. But like, man, it's great. The like deep saturated colors
in the old part,
buildings, and it's just a beautiful place to visit, city to visit.
Havana is one of the best preserved cities.
Yeah, it's amazing.
If you're gonna go there, I mean, especially the old part, right? They've preserved all the beautiful buildings. Like just looking down a street, you want to take a picture of it. It's just beautiful. And it's so much history there, right? I mean, they have forts and churches that were built in like the 1500s, like the 1600s.
Speaking of history, did you go into one at like a museum? Like we went into a museum and we
No,
went, remember
see,
that?
this is why this
I
tour
loved that part.
wasn't as good. We went into the palace. I remember. I think it was like the not presidential palace, but whatever, one of the palaces. And no, this time we didn't do that. The thing that was more different, we walked around Old Havana like we did.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. I recognized a lot of the areas, a lot of the buildings.
Yeah. It's like the same route, but they added new stuff onto it.
Yeah, except I don't know. There was this one street where I don't want to knock this building, but all these old beautiful buildings, and then it's just this random new like slab of concrete wall of glass, like new building right in the middle of it, and it's just an eyesore. Just an eyesore. No disrespect. I'm sure maybe it provides some service. I don't know. Just didn't look. It just stuck out so much. But we went to the newer part.
Yeah.
And by newer, I mean like built in like probably the 40s and 50s, whereas
Yeah.
the old part is like 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, right? And you see like the Capitol building, which ironically looks a lot like the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah.
But there's also like there's theaters too, which I didn't even know they have. Like they had a national ballet, and like the theater
Did
was.
you do that stuff?
We didn't go in and see
No,
it.
but could you?
Could I have gone in?
Like, could you have gone in and watched a movie?
Oh no, it's not a theater like that. It's
Or-
a theater, like you
Yeah.
know,
Or watch a show.
production. Yeah,
Could you have done that?
I think I could. I would have
That
liked
would've been
to.
Cool.
But the building was stunning. Really, that was probably the most beautiful
Yeah.
building. But this is a podcast, so we shouldn't be going too much into it. But Havana was cool.
What
But
about the food?
the food? People
Wasn't there like a food
complain-
shortage right now?
Well, the thing is, in Cuba, there's right now the availability of a lot of things is really bad. But here's also why I feel so scummy going to Cuba, especially in this day and age.
What's the food like? I
yeah.
heard there's some sort of food shortage right now. Was that affected at all?
No, that's also why I feel scummy about going.
Yeah.
Because you're torn, right? Because at the end of the day, the tourism sector is the biggest sector in the country. The people who are making money.
Most of the imported food goes to
And it goes to like the tourists.
resorts and tourists.
But at the same time, so that makes you not want to go because you don't want to support that kind of stuff. But at the same time, that country relies on tourism. They got nothing else as far as big industry. I mean, and that's the only thing they really control. The oil is all Canadian, Chinese, for anything else they have, right? So, and the people who make good money and make a good living work in tourism. So if people stop going to Cuba, it would be really bad.
Just be aware of the countries you're visiting. Don't be so incredibly naive as to not educate yourself on what's going on in the country outside of the pretty resort you've been staying on, That's basically what's important.
Yeah, but I will say the best day was we went out on a catamaran, which is like the boat with the net that you can sit in.
Oh, cool. Those
And-
things are fun.
Yeah, so so you get on the boat in the morning, like around 9,
Yeah.
and it's really nice. By the way, nobody wanted to sit in the net. I was shocked.
Why? That's the best part.
So Deanna and I had it
Okay,
whole time,
cool.
just chilling in this net, sitting right.
People are weird.
Yeah. Anyway, in the morning sun, you're going through the ocean because you get pretty far out into like almost open ocean. Like you get really far away, and sun shining down, it's like rising up more and more on the beach while you're sitting on the catamaran. And then they took us to like a dolphin enclosure, which is another thing I felt really guilty about and would never do again.
I don't know if I go to that kind of thing.
It was on it. We didn't.
Poor animals.
Yes, we didn't know. To be fair, but I wouldn't have done that part again.
No.
But again, it's Cuba. They're not. It's animal rights aren't as far along as they are here,
Yeah.
and it's just people trying to make a living. At the end of the day, I'm not here to judge.
But you had a good time.
Yeah,
Did you?
and after that, they take you to a private island, like with all the other tourists, and you chill on the beach there, and it's amazing. And then on the way back, you're sitting in the catamaran, going through the ocean. I fell asleep for 15 minutes.
Nice to have a little power nap.
Yeah, but so
Out on the
relaxing,
ocean.
and to fall asleep in that kind of situation was awesome. Didn't want to. This is so in Cuba. Our resort was next to the city Veradero,
Yeah.
and we would go in there, go out at night there, and you get these taxis, and you get to ride in these cool old 1950s cars,
Yeah.
top down.
I remember we did that when we went together. It was pretty cool to experience those cars.
And when we did it, we only did it once, right? We made use of it. Like, we went into Veradero like 3 times. So I got to ride in
Cool.
there and back in different taxis. And anyways, we go one night to go get like chocolate from this chocolate place. So this guy takes us there, and we realize when we get in, like, it's not much, and we weren't really into it. So we go out to the guy, and he's like, "Oh, there wasn't anything," and we're like, "No, not really." And he's like, "Well, I know this place that serves really good ice cream if you want to go there."
Oh, nice.
So we get in his car,
Score.
drive, but then we realize he's taking us out of the tourist area. Like, we are going into like
A place he knows.
yeah, like in real Cuba now.
Yeah.
And it's nighttime. And I'm not too afraid. Cuba's a very safe country. I will say that. Incredibly safe. But it's an area you don't know at night.
Of
so
course,
we're
there's a bit of a risk there, and you get a little scared.
Yeah. What is going on? So we get the ice cream. It's great. And then his car breaks down. Out there in the middle of there, and we're stuck there for a solid 10 minutes. And these guys, his friend shows up, and they're like trying to fix the cab there. And they eventually they stick a screwdriver into the ignition, and that's how they were turning the car
No, man, way.
on and off. So this guy feels really bad, and he's driving us back, and he's offering us like, "Oh, I'll get you a drink. I'll get you like some more ice cream, whatever, on me." And we're like, no. And then he's like, "Oh, but I'll take you to my family business, and I'll get you 2 pina coladas." And we're like, okay,
Oh, sure.
cool. So he takes us to his family business, and it's this bar right on the ocean at night, and we have 2 pina coladas, and
Wow.
that was a great night. And then of course we tipped him a ton of money because we don't need the money. And he was
Exactly. He was working for it, and he helped you out.
and he was so nice. So
Yeah.
even after his little mistake, which is fine, like the car broke down, like
Yeah, well, what
stuff
are you
happens.
going to do? Shit happens. So that's a cool little experience you have to have had. Well, you came back, and pretty much you had an episode ready of The Mandalorian again. How did that feel to have a new episode? We're back,
Well, I kind of figured I was gonna have to get right back into it because I was coming back close to midweek, and usually we'll have a meeting about the episode on like the Sunday before we record it. And but obviously we didn't do that because the internet's terrible in Cuba. So I knew I was kind of have to jump back right into it. And I mean, Mandalorian was a good start,
Oh, yeah.
the last bastion of Star Wars, in my opinion, my last hope.
That's true. I mean, there's a lot of controversy surrounding a lot of these new Star Wars shows and movies, but Mandalorian is where we all find our common ground that it's a really great show and one of the best things Star Wars has going for it right now.
It is a breath of fresh air in a sea of Star Wars content.
They really can just immerse their characters in the Star Wars universe without interfering with anything. It's really great stuff, man. And I just love to have it back. Have a new episode to wake up to every week. It's awesome.
And I like being excited about Star Wars again. I don't know.
Yeah, it's having the pilot episode of season 3 here is just nice to look forward as to what do you think this season is going to shape up being. It laid a lot of groundwork for where the season's going to go, and it did great stuff. No big spoilers here, but one of my personal favorite aspects of this episode was seeing this planet Navarro and how what's his name, Grief Karga, has now built it up again, and now it's a respectable trade route, and it's thriving. And when we saw it in the first season, it was like a desolate bounty hunter town. So my favorite thing about the episode was watching and seeing where this how this town came up to be. What about you?
The episode did a really good job at setting the scene.
Yeah.
And even a bit of world building. We get to see some stuff that you haven't quite seen before. And I'm not going to overdo it and say it was like amazing.
Yeah,
but
it was a pretty good reintroduction.
Yeah, a nice first episode, and Navarro was really cool to see how much that had changed from the High Magistrate Karga, as we're reminded.
Yeah, and then season 2, that episode with Ahsoka, there was a different magistrate on a different planet who ruled with by inflicting fear upon the citizens.
An iron fist.
Yeah, so that as compared to the way Grief Karga is running Navarro is just really cool contrast to see. But this was chapter 17, titled The Apostate, because it's pretty much laying the groundwork for how Mando is going to atone for his sins of removing his helmet, and that's going to be one of the main goals of this season here. It's him getting his atonement. But there's going to be multiple things for him to do before he ends up getting there, you know.
Because it's a little Western. There has to be, you know, the
side quests.
Yeah. Little obstacles he's got to go through. I got to say with Navarro, too, I loved when they first get in and you're seeing all the different aliens. That felt so much like Star Wars.
Just seeing this, because I remember before we seen those little monkey things in the trees getting roasted and eaten, but now they're just roaming the streets, and you get to see, just how it is kind of like a spaceport with tons of diverse aliens passing through. It's
way better than Obi-Wan did it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Walking around that Blade Runner city, that was just a bunch of humans walking around.
Yeah, that was weird. You know, I appreciate when they try new stuff and a lot goes into the design, but sometimes it just doesn't click. It doesn't look like it fits in the Star Wars universe. Or maybe that's just opinion.
I don't know. I feel, but it just doesn't feel this like in the same way that Navarro does. Navarro just really felt like such a great reintroduction to it, and I got the vibe. I felt like this is Star Wars, you know. I also, what else? I love the angle they've been bringing in lately too, that he's part of a cult and part of a different sect.
They kind of pulled the rug out from under us, and they're like, oh, he is the extremist, and maybe he isn't the one who's right necessarily. Them explaining, the cultist children of the Watch as compared to Bo-Katan Kryze, who is like the rightful blood heir to Mandalore. That's really interesting to see how they're gonna approach that whole situation, because now you might be like, Mando might have chose the wrong side.
Yeah, and it brings a great dimension to that character. It only makes me like him more. It makes him feel more human, more complex. We're all full of contradictions and full of bad things and good things, and he has this thing that may be holding him back. You know? And it will be interesting to see what they do with that.
Do you think he's gonna try to merge the two clans and types of Mandalorians? Do you think he's going to try to merge the cultist with the Death Watch types of Mandalorians? You know what I mean?
That seems like where it's
try to find common ground, try to rally them all together to unite.
That would seem obvious, right? Like as to what they're gonna do, right? Like that would seem what they do. I predict that's probably.
Do you really think he's gonna put his helmet back on and never take it off again?
No, that seems.
So I feel like he's not going to go through with it, and he's going to kind of make his own new way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems more likely.
This is season 3 predictions right here.
Yeah, and that would separate him, right? So I'm also really curious to see what they're going to do with Mandalore. So what that's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some theories that it's going to be like there's going to be a cloning facility on it. I've heard some people say that would be really interesting. Yeah,
because some of the stones are being laid for how the First Order comes into rise. So we might see some connections there. We might see some connections with the new Ahsoka TV show. There's also a video game coming out, which is a sequel to a video game that came out 2 years ago, which was Jedi Fallen Order, and it follows this Jedi, Cal Kestis, and I'm like wondering if he might somehow be able to make an appearance in the show or have crossovers. I feel like that's a really big opportunity for Mandalorian. I think it fits perfect with the style of show, having cameos, as was season 2 did incredibly well. Was tons of cameos, new characters showing up.
And it's a space western, so it works in that kind of format, and they can. Exactly. And those are some of the best episodes.
Yeah,
I mean, Ahsoka, that was
when I think
incredible.
Season 2, I just think of all these new faces.
Yeah,
and I love that stuff.
And bringing back the fantasy element in Star Wars, too. Like, that's just been kind of missing.
The mystical, magical, of course.
And this one feels more like old Star Wars, too, I think, because of that. It's like, it wears its influences on its sleeve in a different way. It's like the sequels feel like this is a Star Wars movie that's been inspired on top of another Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Whereas like this, whereas
Mandalorian gets back to the roots of what inspired Star Wars.
you see its influences in like in the Western kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then with the fantasy element, but it's more of a subtle influence. It's not just
Season
directly
2
pulling.
had a straight up samurai episode. Ahsoka's episode
Amazing.
was so
That's capturing the Star Wars vibe without just being just completely derivative.
like Japanese martial arts films inspired, and I love to see that translate into new content.
And I love how Din Djarin and Mando they have a sound that plays when he comes in. That's like a Western.
Sound. He has his own little chime, his own little theme
It's
chime.
very reminiscent of like the good, the bad, the ugly. Everybody knows
Yeah.
the woo-woo,
Yeah,
that thing.
iconic stuff that you identify with that.
That's
So,
just such a nice touch.
Yeah, it's cool to see that they're kind of building this stuff.
Another thing I loved in the episode, and I won't try to be too specific with it, but some of the flying scenes, and
Yeah.
a bit of those kind of battles, like
There's
were
some
amazing.
conflict going on with pirates, and we get some cool fight scenes, and
Felt like the prequels.
yeah, it was really, really great to be back with some great new Star Wars.
There's just a sick thing he does. I mean, if you're gonna watch it, just is incredible. You just watch it and you're like, oh my god, that's so badass. Made me feel like a kid.
I love Din Djarin. Give
Yeah.
me some Mando.
You know, but that part felt like the prequels, partly because of the ship he's flying,
Yeah.
which I love seeing. That's I don't know
His
the
new
name.
spaceship is good, really cool, and I saw how it means something for his character because it shows that he's not a bounty hunter anymore. He used to fly this big cargo ship because he needs to carry bounties around and all his equipment, but that's not who he is anymore. So his new starfighter kind of signifies he's a warrior and he's not really a bounty hunter anymore.
And it's more sleek and graceful,
Yeah.
like a warrior, not this big
Exactly.
truck that he's just driving through, through space.
Yeah,
It's symbolic.
It's cool to see that physical change to his character.
I also, there was a cool callback to the prequels I was made aware of. There's this isn't giving away too much, but there's a scene where Grogu is spinning in the chair,
Yeah.
and he's using the Force to spin the chair.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, Yoda's doing that in the prequels
Really?
when he spin, because his feet hang off the ground, right?
Oh, yeah.
So he can't spin the chair like we could, right? So when he's
Yeah.
talking back and forth to, I think it was, I don't remember the character's word,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
whatever. And he's using the Force to
I
spin
believe
the
I know
chair
what you're
back and
talking
forth.
about, yeah.
Yeah, to spin the chair back and forth.
Oh,
and
that's a
he's,
cool
and he's
parallel.
doing it in a scene as
Huh.
a kid, but like playing around.
Yeah,
More so
that's a
with his
cool
new Force
parallel. I like when they do stuff like that.
That's real care and like passion right there.
Yeah. Dude, but the episode opened up with this huge, really awesome battle as well.
Yeah, we got to see their weapons. I was going to say that was really great to see that.
Yeah,
the
we see some
Mandalorians
cool
use them.
Mandalorian stuff in the first scene, and it really is an action-packed scene. We're not going to spoil anything, but if you know, you know. Dude, something I love that they've been doing since the beginning of the show is the artwork at the end.
That's
in the-
really
in
cool.
the
I
title
noticed that.
screen.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see the concept art and how it translates onto the screen also.
And it's like, why don't all shows do that?
I know.
What else are you
It's
going to play
cool.
during the credits?
Yeah, it's way. I don't know.
And that's
It
knowing
adds a
Star
lot.
Wars.
It adds a lot, to be honest.
That's knowing your audience. That's knowing
Yeah.
Star Wars fans.
Knowing
and
the
knowing
people
depth, yeah.
appreciate that stuff.
Yeah.
We're not stupid. We just don't want. We don't like if there's cool stuff to look at. I can appreciate that. So I like when they go the extra mile and give us stuff like that.
And it's and it'll give you a deeper appreciation for the people who worked in designing all that and the imagination behind it. Not that it's like the most amazing Star Wars world ever. Like it's good, but but it's just nice to see the creativity that went in behind it. God, I love talking about Star Wars like this and just being positive.
It's so refreshing to just talk about. It's a weird experience now to just sit here and talk about a new Star Wars thing that you love, that you're really excited about. It's weird.
I'd love to see it in the theater.
A Mandalorian binge watch in the theater.
Yeah, in the theater.
Oh, I'm totally there with you on that one.
Or watch like premieres and like maybe the first episode of every season and like the finale. That would be amazing to go
Yeah.
see all that stuff in the theater. And it's and it would be perfect for it. And that would feel more like a passionate experience than anything. Maybe probably
Mm-hmm.
other than the Force Awakens premiere that I would have
Force
saw.
Awakens was a really special experience to be there for that. It was really huge. Star Wars' big return to the big screen.
And the world just turned into Star Wars at that time, right? So that was
Yeah.
also that, right? Like it was a big pop culture moment.
This is like, if on social media and everything, I mean, it's really big, this Mandalorian premiere, but I don't think it's as big as it used to be. Do
It's
you
not
think?
a pop culture moment in the same respect. It's more niche audience.
Yeah. I mean, it's on the front page of Twitter. It's one of the number one things on Twitter right now. So, it's
Like my
pretty
girlfriend knew when
popular.
The Force Awakens came out, but she didn't know when like Mandalorian came out. Like that's
Oh,
usually how I
really?
judge things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if your parent who's not into it at all, or someone you know who's not into it at all, your significant other, whatever, who doesn't know anything about it, knows about something that's coming out, that's when you know it's like a big deal. That's like my test for everything.
I would have thought the Mandalorian season 3 premiere is way bigger. And more people are excited for it than they were for the new movies. What do you think? The Mandalorian's become an unbelievably huge thing.
That's true though, because I did discount because Grogu just as a symbol has become quite
Identifiable
they're still-
with the Star Wars franchise now. Grogu's the new face of Star Wars. Same with Mando.
Yeah, and it's rightfully so. This should be the flagship and the representative. If I was gonna try to get somebody into Star Wars,
Yeah.
and I had to start with something that's come out in the last 7 years, it would be this. No question.
I think we're in for a dark, gritty season.
A lot of conflict within
Yeah.
and on
Yeah.
the outside, and I think the characters are going to be more complicated. There's one character in particular who I'm really interested to see what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to really get into any spoilers or anything, but it was a great beginning to the next chapter of Mandalorian, and it's just great to have it back,
We should do an in-depth, though, one of these days where we can like really break
Yeah.
down an episode and go through, because we have so much to say.
Let's wait and do a huge one when there's a really big reveal or someone crazy shows up. Let's do an in-depth one on that.
Because even right now, I'm like chomping at the bit to go in deep and like talk about like specific
Yeah.
scenes, and it's just like,
I don't know. Were there any great details that stuck out to you, or your favorite moments of the new premiere?
Like I said, the flying ship scene was probably my favorite with the pirates. That was probably my favorite part of the movie, and just the curiosity of what we're gonna do with certain characters. Like I said, I don't want to say too much because we don't want to give away anything
sure.
too specific. But
But one thing we could go into that scene where they're doing a repair on a droid.
that was great.
And so these little characters, the first other species appeared in The Rise of Skywalker. This alien named Babu Freak.
Yeah, they're the Anzellans, I believe.
Anzellians or something.
Anzellians,
Yeah.
something like that.
And now they've branched, like, they're just putting them in. Like, that's great to have those crossover appearances of just certain species of characters in Star Wars. And you see Grogu hugging this little tiny guy.
Bad baby,
so funny.
bad baby. That's what they call him after.
Comedic relief here is subtle and great. A lot of visual humor.
Yeah,
That's what the Mandalorian signature is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the visual humor.
but even how Mando can't understand them, but they're kind of speaking English, but kind of not.
Yeah, it's like broken English.
Yeah, and then the High Magistrate Karga is
Yeah.
translating back and forth, and
But
then
you know what they're saying.
yeah, and Mando's like, I think I got it, and like that felt like classic Star Wars
Yeah.
humor to me, very sarcastic kind of.
Oh man, I'm just so excited. I'm really excited for the Mandalorian, man, and it does wonders for Star Wars. Now's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. There is a new game coming out soon, Jedi Survivor, which is really like highly anticipated. So there's a lot of new Star Wars content coming out right now, which is good Star Wars content, which could be a first,
Turning it back to Grogu's quickly for 1 second,
Yeah.
he has become, I don't want to say iconic yet, but very popular. very associated. It hasn't been around long enough to me to call it iconic yet. But I wonder if that's more to do with he was cute, and he's more famous on his own. Like how many people? I'm sure the ratings are unbelievably strong for this. I'm not saying that it's doing bad by any means, but I would love to see if it's kept up the exact same. Like how many people? If it is Grogu more famous than the show is really what I'm trying to say. Like to the broader mainstream. But Mando is pretty famous as well. But
it's really interesting to think about, and I think that like it would surprise you. I wouldn't be surprised if Grogu is more like the image of Grogu is more popular than the actual show itself now.
That's what I'm thinking, right? Because Mandalorians, it feels so niche.
So really what you're asking here is, are there people, and a lot of people, who buy Grogu merch but don't watch the show?
Yeah. Which we're not, I don't hate you if you do that. I'm not gonna
No,
be one
we're
of
just
those
talking
people,
about
you
like
know?
how iconic of an image it's become.
Yeah, and that's good for Star Wars.
I don't care if you don't watch the show, but you like Grogu.
Yeah, that's cool, man. But I would think that's probably how it is, because Mando it still feels like it has a very niche audience to me. It doesn't feel like something that's that can be like I guess it's mainstream, but it just doesn't feel in the same way that the sequels were.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's probably a base level of people who have seen the original trilogy a lot, probably maybe grew up with it. They maybe saw the prequels once, hated them, and then they saw these sequels, and then that's what they watched, and then that's kind of it, and they don't really want to go any deeper than that. Like I feel like
there's some really great stuff though.
Yeah, they really are. They're missing out for sure. I mean, at least on the Mandalorian, they're not. I guess they aren't really missing out, in my opinion. I don't really like most of the stuff, but yes, Mandalorian, they are missing out.
In that case, do you think this Ahsoka show will be good, considering it's also going to be led by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and it's them kind of continuing the stories that they wrote themselves to begin with? I'm
a bit more optimistic about it, as long as it's like her episode. I'm always a bit cautious with my hopes. You know, even...
Yeah.
I hate that I have to think about this with Star Wars, but even watching this episode today, I'm like, are they going to screw it up? Are they going to screw it up? Is there going to be something I don't like? But so far, they've held it together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and they seem like a good team. I have heard the complaint with David Filoni that he kind of he makes cartoons most of the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so the stuff that he makes in live action, it's just a cartoon in live action. It doesn't translate very well. I see that. I definitely...
Mandalorian was his first crack at live action.
Yeah, and that
look at what it's become.
Yeah, that one's very good, I think. But like Boba Fett, I think is an example where I really get that complaint.
Was a miss. Yeah,
it feels like once that was pointed out to me, I'm like, you can definitely see that in Boba Fett. It feels like a cartoon in a live action context, and it just doesn't translate properly.
But like, I'm not mad at the Book of Boba Fett. You know, it doesn't. It still feels like Star Wars to me, more like Star Wars than the sequels do.
And you might be at a point, I mean, you're on a level of fandom, I think, where you can kind of watch anything Star Wars and enjoy it, but still admit that it's bad. Like everybody has those things they're a fan of where you're like, you even like the bad stuff just because you're so into it that you can watch the terrible stuff, acknowledge it's bad, but just because you're such a big fan, it's like you don't mind watching it.
I couldn't get into Andor.
Yeah, I know you haven't watched that. That's what this made me want to watch Andor, because I kind of got pumped on Star Wars, and I'm like, maybe I want to check out Andor finally. I
tried, but really, maybe it's just not for me.
Well, here's my thing with Andor, and there's a guy I go to school with, Alex, and we have a big heated debate about this, and he gets like really defensive, right? But he really likes it, and from what I can gather, he seems like a bit of like real Star Wars loyalist. He doesn't have a problem with a lot of the stuff that they've done. Anyway, my thing with Andor is, okay, it's good, but also, why do I care about Star Wars without that, again, fantasy element? Without, like, it just doesn't feel like Star Wars. So it's like, why do I care?
They're just people who enjoy that sort of war movie-esque, like, the type of conflicts that happen between the ranks on a lower level.
But to me, that's like every other sci-fi ever.
Yeah.
right? Like that's then it's getting it's not like Star Trek, but it's closer to Star Trek, and it's closer to a lot of other Like to me, Andor looks like it could be like any other sci-fi franchise from back in the 70s. And
it's cool that exists within Star Wars, though.
Yeah, I suppose
something that's different.
It just feels like kind of a pointless exercise. It's almost like I guess that's not a fair comparison. I don't know. It felt like She-Hulk to me. Like I can respect what She-Hulk was trying to do and not be this and be different from the pack, but I'm also like, then what's the point though? I go to Marvel for that for that big movie.
So when they start branching out, you kind of lose people. You know, this isn't exactly what you came for.
Yeah. So not that I'm against experimentation. I'm kind of, it's just finding that middle. And to me, like Andor may be good, but it's also like, what's the point? Just not going to feel like Star Wars.
That's okay. If you're just the type of fan that it doesn't stick with, that's okay, because there are people it does stick with. I bet the things that might end up being your favorite aren't something necessarily is the Andor fan's favorite.
Yeah. So I don't understand that. I'm like, what? But that's just me. Like, I don't know how you couldn't, how that could, be so great to you. I just don't see the point. But again,
overall, I'm excited for Star Wars right now. I was pretty worried back then when we knew Rian Johnson was getting a trilogy.
Yeah, I don't really want any more movies at this point, and I don't think it's needed.
I don't mind Star Wars being a show, but like they might be overdoing it.
Well, yeah, they are. I mean, I would definitely like, but that's just. But we shouldn't isolate that to Star Wars. That's everything now. Everything's overdone.
Yeah.
Everything. Once something is like, I mean, it's always been like that in entertainment, but the internet has just magnified that tenfold in streaming. Like, there's just so much content, and everything that has to come out has to be big, bold, and it's got to be everywhere. And so that's kind of the nature of the game. But I don't think you need to do movies at this point. Like, we're in a different era.
Yeah.
There's no like theater culture anymore. It's almost, not entirely, but it is kind of pointless for them to do movies at this point. Streaming is the game. So episodic television makes more sense to me at this point to do.
Yeah. Having that like episode every week, that's like a quest or a new discovery, is kind of what people want. They want to sit down once a week and just check in what's going on in Star Wars and the Mandalorian, and that's it. They don't gotta get amped up for this next movie and how huge it's gonna be and how much it's gonna change the universe. Like,
that time,
this might be more people's pace.
Yeah, that time may be passing. It's certainly not gone. I'm not going to say people still don't love going to the theater.
TV might be the way, man.
But it's just a different. Times are changing to me, and it's like this whole movies being a big deal and everybody going to the theater. It seems to be kind of fading away. And one day, the only people that are going to be left doing it are people like me and you. And that'll probably be really fun. But I have a theory that in the future, theater is going to be this really niche thing, and it's going to go back to how it was. Cool movies,
I hope so.
Because there'll be no money in it, right? So it'll become this niche thing. Movie tickets might be a bit more expensive.
I would go to the movies forever if they just rotated all movies and everything. Like, if they rotated old movies, I'd go. Yeah. Because I'm not necessarily going to the movies to see a new movie. That's when it's at its best, when you're excited to see something. But just going to the movies, for the experience. Of course, for the popcorn. Half the reason I go is to enjoy the popcorn and the snacks. But watch a movie on the big screen doesn't have to be new. It's just something you love.
But like Quentin Tarantino, for example, bought a theater in LA. And he just plays movies he likes. And I'm like, that's kind of what I see the future of going to a movie theater is going to be like. It's just going to be this. There's going to be fewer movie theaters, no big cineplexes and AMCs in the States or whatever. It's just going to be, you're going to go to this independent theater. You pay a higher price for the ticket, probably.
But then there'll be a more respectable audience.
It'll be better.
Yeah.
For us.
You won't get like, because I hate going when there's families or kids in the theater. People yell. But like if you're going with a bunch of people who also just want to enjoy the experience of going to the movies, then it'll be a lot more of an enjoyable thing. So I wouldn't mind that.
And you'll have more variety, cooler choices, riskier choices. It'll be probably be a better time.
There's tons of old movies you could go see that you haven't seen yet.
Yeah. So I mean, and like we said, we would pay to go see old movies. We went to see Empire Strikes Back in the theater.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome.
I've got a list. Yeah, that was amazing. Of all these movies I would love to see in the theater. They never got the chance to, and I would rather have theaters go in that direction. So I kind of can't wait until it stops being profitable and, it turns into this smaller community, and goes to that. So
I like to look sometimes like on Cineplex, just look at theaters, just rotate looking at theaters around me and what they're playing, like Saturday, Sunday morning. Sometimes you'll catch them playing old movies. And it's really great to go and catch a movie that you didn't actually get to see in the theater many years ago when it came out.
And then those movies are like 100% for the theater because that would have been the only way to see them when they came out.
Yeah, exactly. They come out and then it's a while until you can see it again.
Well, yeah, anything from the like probably early 80s into the 70s, they didn't even have home video yet. So like even that was pretty scarce. So it's literally the only way you're going to see them. So like it's definitely worth it. So I need to see more. I have seen far too little old movies in the theater.
Well, maybe we should go see Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, that's what
That's come out now.
Gotten 100%.
What the hell is that up with? Cocaine Bear at 100% Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, you know where I could see giving it 100%? I very much believe it's like you should really judge a movie on its merits in the sense that Cocaine Bear is
It's gone down to 70%.
Oh, okay. Well, I would say it can be at 100% if you judge it within the context of what the movie is. If it's a stupid horror movie.
But if it does that well.
Yeah, if it does that well, then it deserves 100%. What, are you going to watch Cocaine Bear and expecting to see the Shawshank Redemption? Of course not.
I love that movie, by the way.
but you don't go in to watch that with the expectation that it's going to be this masterpiece of cinema. It's supposed to be a dumb movie.
And that's, if you can go and, like I always say, turn your brain off and enjoy this, then it might be a really good time at the movies.
So if it knows what it is and it does it well, then I'd give it 100% in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like you can't rate Cocaine Bear against Gone with the Wind, against Shawshank Redemption, against Pulp Fiction, whatever, all these all time considered the greatest movies of all time. You can't compare it. It's a different thing.
I'd love to go to a couple advanced screenings.
Yeah.
For anticipated movies coming out.
Well, then your opinion is influenced by almost nothing.
I'd even like to dive into going to the film festival.
We should definitely do that.
Go to TIFF.
TIFF was definitely a possibility.
Grab a couple tickets.
Oh, we can definitely. That's in September, so
I think we should go to the film festi.
Yes, we got to do that. That's a plan, right?
That's something I've wanted to do for a couple of years now, but like I haven't been getting out to do that stuff. Like same with Comic-Con and Fan Expo, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that's our weekend, guys. Yeah. That's just our what's been going on lately for us. Diego's been away, and when he got back, we were able to watch The Mandalorian. So I guess we'll check in again with The Mandalorian once something noteworthy happens. We might not end up talking about it again, or if it ends up being crazy good or something that has us excited, then we'll hop back on and talk some more Mando.
Probably about the finale. If the finale is anything like how season 2 was, we'll probably have to end up talking about it. So,
well, we'd like to thank you guys for listening this week to us just ramble a little bit about Star Wars, but that's what the show is about. So
yeah, that's what you come for.
Thanks for listening, guys, and we will catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye.